Lord of the Rings, one of the best trilogies to ever grace the big screen. In the first episode, we had a look at a lot of the swords of some of the main characters, and on average, they were fantastic. In today's episode, we're going to continue with that, looking at more Lord of the Rings designs. Let's get started. So, diving back in with some more Lord of the Rings swords. But before we do that, I wanted to mention something. Some people commented, why aren't I covering the High Elven blade? I have it right here, why aren't I talking about it? I know I'm going to do a full episode on it at some point. Don't worry, I know it's there. But with that out of the way, let's talk about some of these swords designs. Now, if you haven't watched the first episode, I highly recommend checking it out because there's a lot of information in there, and it'll give you a feel for this sort of analysis, right? Now, what we're talking about is taking these swords from the Lord of the Rings verse, bringing them into the real world and analyzing the design. Would they be functional swords, or is there some problems with them? Now, getting started, let's get started right off the bat. This is the Sword of Rohan. This is another gold standard design, and I should mention that I'm not even the biggest fan of like arming swords or single-handed swords. It's just a personal preference thing. I personally prefer more bastard swords or hand and half swords, that sort of thing. But disregarding all of that, this design is gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. The blade, if we look at this, it's got a nice double fuller, so that's its cross section, nice double fuller. The bevel looks to be a good length, and what you can see is the fuller goes all the way up, right up to the tip, but then it stops, and we've got great structural rigidity, something very similar to this sort of blade. The fuller goes all the way up and then it stops somewhere around about here, so that we still have all that structural rigidity right on the tip, which is, that's fantastic sword design. So in terms of slashing and thrusting, literally no problems. This blade is gorgeous. Then when it comes down to the hilt, right, it does look like it's got a little bit of a round head. I can't tell half the time if they've got round handles or if that's just the images, right? Because there's not really the best sort of images to show whether it's oval or round. I'm gonna assume that it's oval, hopefully. Now, obviously, I mentioned this in the first episode, it's really important to have indexing on your swords so you know where your edge is, especially with a blade like this. Now, that pommel there is, it's absolutely gorgeous. It transitions to the handle perfectly, so it'll be nice and comfortable when you're swinging around, because it is a single-handed sword, right? It means that it's not gonna hurt, it's not gonna, dig into your skin, any of that sort of thing. The Sword of Rohan, blade, fantastic. Bevels, fullers, all bang on. When it comes to the handle, fantastic. The guard is a little bit big, and what I mean by that is it looks like it's made out of brass, so that's the material, which is very heavy material, and there's a big concentration of it right after where the hilt is, so the balance on it might not be perfect, but apart from that, I love it. I love it. It's a great sword, and that's not even my personal preference. So that is the Sword of Rohan. Fantastic. Love it. Let's have a look at Thrands Sword, because this one is interesting, right? First and foremost, it is very reminiscent of, I would say, either a katana or perhaps a saber, because it doesn't have a guard, which obviously a sword with a guard, it doesn't matter what type of guard, even something like a suba on a katana is better than nothing, right? Because it can stop your hand slipping onto the blade, and it also offers some sort of defense, right? With this one, it doesn't have per se a guard. It does have that contouring, which will stop your hand slipping onto the blade, so I definitely like that. So we don't have kind of the Elron problem or the Legolas problem. So your hand isn't gonna accidentally slip onto the blade. Now, in terms of the blade itself, this is functional, right? Like, there's nothing wrong here. It's a very simple, slightly curved blade. It's not too thick. It's very, very reminiscent of a katana in terms of like its thicknesses and its widths of the blade. So that's all bang on. The thing that immediately draws my eye is the handle and the pommel, if we want to call it that, because the pommel kind of sweeps back a little bit, specifically on the top side, so I'm not sure how that would feel in your hand. It's one of those things where you would literally just have to hold it to know whether or not it's good or not. I don't think it would dig into your hand. The angle on it doesn't look like it's steep enough, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say it's probably not going to dig into your hand, so that's a good thing. The material. This is a solid metal handle. That's not ideal. for a couple of different reasons. The first and foremost is obviously just weight, you know, like having a full metal hilt of something means that it's going to be quite heavy. It's a lot of material. How does that hilt actually attach to the tang? Is it integrated, or is the tang and the hilt the same? Like it raises a lot of questions personally, but the issue is metal is kind of slippery. It's very slippery to hold, and like we said with the first one, if you have gauntlets or gloves on, if it gets wet, there's not really any texture here to actually be able to hold on to this hilt. If you're enjoying today's episode, you should really consider subscribing. I mean, I have a saw shield, I mean, I have a twin blade here, but if a twin blade isn't enough, I also have a trident. This is the type of content I do, along with giant swords and a whole host of other stuff. So if you like these sorts of things, you should consider subscribing. Do I think it could work functionally and practically? Yes, I just don't think it is as good as having a nice wood handle with a good leather wrap on it, or a cord wrap. It just, first off, it's more comfortable, it's easier to hold, and you're not going to have as much grip issues with it. But apart from that, reasonable. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Next up, the Witch King one. Ooh, this one is fascinating because right off the bat, like, this is 99% perfect. Like, I don't have too much of an issue with it. First and foremost, the blade, in terms of its width, its length, the grind lines on it, you know, it looks to be like a diamond cross section. All legit, that's all great. Then on top of that, we have the crossguard. The crossguard is proportional, it's the right thicknesses, it's the right widths. Then when we get down to the pommel does look proportional to this rather thin blade. So this, all fantastic. Then when we come to the handle's an interesting one on this one because I like that it's got the two risers there to separate the single and second hand use, perfectly fine. I only have one question about it, and that is, first off, in the images, like I said, everything looks round. I can't tell if this one's round or not. That would be not ideal. But it's also a little thin. I think it's a touch thin. This is a longer blade, so having a little bit more of a proportional, like just to my eye, right? It looks like that handle is a touch thin, even if we look at something like Katana from there. This is a proportional handle to the blade. The reason why this is really important is because obviously, first off, you need to fit the tang inside of the handle. So if you have a super thin handle, it means your tang is really small, which means your sword could break, which is not good. But it also means that your connection point, your hand is your connection point to the blade. This is why having indexing is so important, is because this is what does all of the heavy lifting when you swing a sword. So having a handle that is proportional means you have more surface area. You can also hold it tighter. So having a very thin handle means that it's going to be a lot harder to hold. And especially when you take into account that the Nazgul and the Witch King and stuff, they wear gauntlets, they wear gloves. Thick gauntlets and gloves with such a thin handle means holding that correctly and not getting it to roll around in your hand and all that sort of stuff would be really difficult. But the truth is, I think it's functional, right? I think it's functional, but when I look at this sword and I look at images of it, and even when I look at images of, you know, the films, right, of the actual, you know, the Witch King holding the sword in the films, it just looks a little thin. But apart from that, the design is awesome. It's actually, it's bang on. I just think it's maybe a hair too thin, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong. Next up, we have Balin's sword mace. I guess we would call it. That's what I'd kind of call it, right? This one is interesting because, first and foremost, it is a weight concentrating type of weapon, right? Like a hammer or a pick or, you know, like a bec de Corbin, something like that, right? A mace, a flail, it's a weight concentrating type of weapon, an anti-armor weapon, let's put it like that. That's what these are. We have these right angled spikes. This one does have a thrusting point, so you can actually thrust with it, which is great. But we have all that mass up near the tip of the head to concentrate, to smash through armor, which is awesome. There's a slight problem here, and that is the thickness of the haft. It essentially turns into a sword, right? It's like a sword with a mace head, if we want to describe it that way. So we've kind of got two competing concepts here. The first one is obviously we want to concentrate all the weight and force down the head of the weapon. So when we hit, we're transferring all that kinetic energy into the armor and into the enemy, essentially. But because we have so much of a thick blade right beneath it, we're not going to be as efficiently transferring all that force from the head. This is where it gets interesting, because I personally think the trade-off of having a sharpened half or like a blade before the head is worth it. I think the versatility of that personally is worth it. So in terms of the functionality, it would work. This would be a devastating weapon, very similarly to the Urukai sword. However, this is far more refined and practical, I would say. The only difference is it's one of those things where, do you prefer a force concentrator like a mace that performs better as a mace, where this one seems to be, it would probably perform reasonably adequate as a mace, but you do have that added functionality of like a blade beneath it, which I think is cool. I like that. That's cool. So this here is great. And then at the pommel we have that, you know, that point, so you can definitely pommel strike with it, which is, that's all. I like this. I really do like this. I think having the cutout, the little eyelet down near the head to remove that weight, I think it kind of betrays its functionality. You want to concentrate all the weight at the head, so removing weight at the head seems a little counterintuitive. But apart from that, I still think it would be awesome. You have those two right angle points for that armor penetration. You have that thrusting point, so you can thrust with it, and then you have those edges, double edges, so that you can still, if you miss with the head, hack and cleave with the edges. So I dig it. I think it's cool. I like this one. All right, next up, another Elven Sword. This one I like. I probably like this one a little bit more than Thranduil's and Elron's, because like we said with the other two, right? This one here has a large chopping blade, so I don't think it's going to be a nimble blade. It doesn't really have any fullers on it. It does have some nice grinds on it, so I don't think it would be too heavy or unwieldy at all. But the handle is the real interesting part here, because it looks like to be some sort of wood, which is good, right? We want that. On top of that, it has awesome contouring, so I think indexing would be fantastic. And then on top of that, we have a large, let's say, contoured area for the guard. It wouldn't really work very defensively, honestly, but it would definitely stop your hand slipping onto the blade. So that is awesome. And then on top of that, it looks, I can't tell from these images 100%, but it does look like it has a big, long false edge on it. So this one here is what I think Elron's sword should have been. This is fantastic, right? It still needs a guard, as most combat swords need some sort of guard, for the simple reason that, you know, your hands are a very vulnerable target. They're also the closest target to your enemy, so they're very easy to get. So having some sort of guard to protect your hands is so important with swords. It's like so paramount. So having some sort of guard is really important. But this one I definitely like more than Thranduil's and definitely Elron's. I really like this Elven design. The blade is a little fat, you know, it's quite fat. If you thinned it down, it would probably handle a little bit more like a saber, but we have those big nice grinds, so I don't think the weight would be too much of an issue. So this one here, I definitely like this one. I think I like this one the most out of the Elven swords, not including the High Elven sword, of course. So a shorter episode today, not as many swords as last time, but let me talk about my 3 favorite from today's episode. First and foremost, I would definitely put the Witch Kings in there. Like, it is 99% perfect. I don't know. I feel like the handle is a little bit thin. I feel like it could just be a little bit thicker and it would be bang on. I would love it. Next up, I would probably go with the Sword of Rohan. It's a beautiful sword, right? Like that double fuller on that blade is gorgeous. Absolutely love it. Fantastic. And then lastly, like, this one is a toss-up, right? Because I really like Balin's sword mace, but I also do like the Mirkwood sword. Like, I like both of them. So I could go either way of it. You guys let me know in the comments which one you guys prefer. But those two I really enjoy as well. But I think that's going to be all for today's episode. I genuinely hope you enjoyed, guys. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, if you want me to do another one of these episodes, I am happy to. There's still a couple of more swords out there and some other designs. There's definitely other franchises that we can have a look at. It really just depends on you guys, what you guys enjoy. But that's going to be all. Thank you guys for watching. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. And as always, I'll see you next week in another episode. Have a good one.